Episode 225, Exercise, How to Win Friends and Influence People.
You're listening to the very best podcast in the world on health, wealth, and happiness. Please remember to leave a review and share with all your friends and family. And here is your host, Lars Hilser.
We're concluding another week here at the very best podcast in the world, your only source in the universe for personal supremacy through health, wealth, and happiness. It's raining, it's doomy, it's gloomy, but I think today's episode is going to shine some light, make your weekend, perhaps, depending on where you are listening to this, a bit less so. Those of you who, or a lot of you will not be surprised about the title. Let's start out that way. To anyone who has remotely, even, just scratched the surface of sales, is going to be aware of Dale Carnegie's best-selling book, which this episode is based upon. So Am I. And for those of you who know, this is not going to be a read-along or anything, but it's a condensation, if you will, of the most important takeaways from that book. And I'm going to briefly skip through them. So take notes and see what you can perhaps apply, perhaps refresh, or, perhaps learn if you've just heard about the title. Get the book. It's really totally worth it. Not only, if you're in sales, but it's pretty much, a good piece of advice for anyone who, wants to improve relationships and so on and so forth. So now that we have the intro out of the way, let's briefly go into housekeeping. Item number 1, views my own, yada, yada. Item number 2, sharing is caring. So anyone based on this episode who, we could use in your sphere of influence a little bit of a kick in the butt about, how to be more nice to people, because, niceness gets you anywhere. There's a sleazy saying, which I'm not going to repeat in in a variety of languages. But there we go. So sharing is caring, meaning that, share this episode not only necessarily with those people, who could benefit directly, but also, share it with the whole wide world, because that's what this podcast lives off of, is, preventing your friends and anyone in your networks from being wallet raped by one of those people who offer pretty much the same advice, but at a steep price. And that's not what this podcast is about. So that being said, let's get started. There are 15 items that we're going to run through, which are, the main takeaways of this book. It's not the full takeaway or the full experience that you're going to get from reading this. So, it's just basically to trigger those of you who haven't read it to buy the book. Then we've got those of you who need a refreshment, who've read it in the past, but, kind of maybe forgotten about one or two things just as a refresher. Or, those of you who live by that book and therefore, kind of take it into their stream of success, if you will. It's a good thing to really tag along again and refresh there. So without further ado, first item: don't criticize, condemn, or complain. Those whiners, those whinging palms that, constantly, nobody wants to be around them. So you can make fun. Yeah, I'm really struggling because this and that and the other. But keep a smile on your face, because, we went over it many times in the past. There are no problems. There are only challenges, which you have to figure out the solution for, right? And so there's no reason really for doom and gloom to be, being your day-to-day mood, because, hey, you're alive, you're healthy, You've got food on the table, roof over your head, right? It's the basics. From there on, yeah, everything is north from there. But, be satisfied with what you have. Next is to give honest and sincere appreciation. So if somebody gives you a gift, gives you a chance or an opportunity, be grateful for it. Don't forget about it. Don't let your life become so fast that you run risk of actually forgetting, even the smallest gifts or whatever, chances that you get are an opportunity. So be honest and sincere in your appreciation for them. Go out of your way to make people feel important. And that's, one of the core leadership values that I think are out there. A true leader is someone that's always going to put their team first. Also when it comes to the presentation of material, as a true leader, you always, are one step behind the team, because without the team, you are essentially nothing. We went over that in the episode about, what's a boss, what's a leader. So making people feel important and going out of your way, to do so is insanely important. Become genuinely interested in other people. And we went over that a few episodes ago, where it was about setting yourself back, shutting up, and letting other people talk. The reason is that, from that you can learn. If, you're going to be the teacher in that setting, and you're the only one that's going to be talking, you're not going to learn anything, right? But learning whatever it is, from other people's experiences, from other people's hardships, from other people's quote unquote failures, or things that they've, the lessons that they have learned, you can take away so much and prevent hardship for yourself just by avoiding those steps that other people have taken and which have resulted in not so good results, to be diplomatic. Remember to use other person's names. Their person's names. There we go. So you can overdo it. Abby Martin, a famous, infamous to a degree, journalist, was with Joe Rogan the other day, and she would consistently and constantly call him Joe every second sentence or so. And you can overdo it, and you can thereby make other people tired. You know your name. Right. So there's no need to remind you of it constantly. So, be careful with that one, but do it. So, you're going to have to find your own way to make it authentic. When wrong, admit quickly and empathically. There's no, there's always, I know it's totally hard for a lot of you to say, I'm sorry, if you fucked up. But it's, once you get the hang of it and you're honest about, asking for forgiveness for something you've done, it's, this thing that you've done doesn't eat away at your soul anymore. So it's, really this liberating feeling that you get out of it. I know it's, admitting to be wrong is, something which has vanished out of culture almost entirely. But, we are human. And I think everybody knows in the back of their head that we therefore, are anything but perfect, right? And acknowledging that, will go a long way to allow you to, admit that you've been wrong in a certain situation. Next is to publicly publicly praise the other person's accomplishment. I'm not going to go into this because I already mentioned it in the leadership context. It's like you give someone credit for something that you may have been responsible for even, but put them in the shining light. It'll, have many positive consequences. The most important one of which is that you don't get so many phone calls to keep you occupied and away from the other stuff that's truly important. Next is to show respect for other people's opinions. And we're seeing this now amidst this Rona discussion that's going on, right? Friendships are breaking apart. Even, sturdy family constructs are, at risk of falling apart because people have other opinions. And, there's this famous saying that opinions are like assholes and everybody's got one. And, that's true. But, even before the Rona, we were able to accept other people's opinions, right? It all started with this flamboyant separation of the United States between Republicans and Democrats and Trumpers and non-Trumpers and QAnon and, that whole ordeal, right? But I think, if you're incapable of respecting somebody else's opinion and still being their friend and, being around them, makes you a pretty sorry ass person, in my personal opinion. There we go. Next is to try to see things from other people's perspective. And that kind of adds on to what I just said. It's like you're not gonna be able to see how other cultures tick if you haven't lived in them. Now, I've been blessed in that I've lived in really numerous dozens of countries over the past couple of years for periods of time where I had time to interact with local culture and, get acquainted with local customs and so on and so forth. And it was very, very, very enriching, and it gave me the opinion, I mentioned the story of where I went to the Grand Mosque because I had questions about Islam, and this was just such an insane experience to sit down with the imam for a few hours, have tea, just have polite conversation, about religion, about the world, about so many things where, it was just enlightening to get, the totally different opinion of what I was raised in, and so that's another interesting thing to sit down with other people, to walk a mile in their shoes, get their perspective. And then perhaps, you'll be able to see the world in a different and more positive way as well. I don't know, make it or break it. Next is to get the best out of an argument, avoid it. Right. And, the best battle fought is the one that you don't fight. And that's, true. There's really, no reason to get into an argument. If you're only of mediocre intelligence, what's the reason for getting into an argument with anyone? It's just a shift of perspective. You don't understand what the other person is trying to convey. So, get into their mind, pick their brains and try and see the problem or the challenge or whatever it is from the perspective that they're coming from. It's insanely enlightening, totally good experience to go through. Always begin in a friendly way. That kind of adds on to that. There is really no need for an unfriendly way. Yeah, there comes situations where you have to stand your ground, you have to make your point. But until then, friendliness is going to get you a whole lot further than, having an argument or a physical altercation or, hiring a shyster or whatever it is at the end of the day. Ask questions rather than giving orders. This is interesting, and also from a leadership school perspective. It's like you can bark orders at someone, get this done until this and that and the other. But asking questions, and giving your subordinates the idea that they came up with the idea is going to make your life so much easier. And it's a technique that I perfected really over the years, to get stuff done because, nobody likes being barked at, particularly not orders. So it's like, what feeling do you want to leave other people in? What mindsets? Smile. Always smile. There are hardly any reasons when you shouldn't, and to be in a bad mood is something, is time wasted. So, leaving it at that, I think, is totally fine and perfect. Let other people save face. If somebody screws up, try. I know it's difficult, but, sometimes we get emotional, but, at least try to take them on the side and say, look, that didn't go so well. And do it in a 4-eye conversation, a one-to-one conversation. It's going to just make life easier for everyone. You're not going to be Sorry, you're not going to be the asshole, and the other person gets to save face. Last but not least is to let other people do all the talking. And I'm going to let you do the talking now because we've already went through this and I blew the 15 minutes that I didn't want to blow. So in that sense, I hope I was able to, like I said, trigger those of you to who've heard about the book, haven't read it, or haven't heard about it at all, to buy it, go through it. It's just going to make it have a real big impact on your life. Those of you who have read it, maybe it was a refresher here and there, to pull it out of the shelf, read it again. And I hope that you have a nice weekend with this exercise that you really don't need to do so much for, but to reflect upon, maybe how you can improve your social relationships by, applying some of these rules and making your life significantly easier. And in that sense, I hope you have a nice weekend, and we're going to be in touch back on Monday. We're going to talk about something I haven't really decided upon. Week's planning usually takes place on the weekend when you do your exercises. So in that sense, I'm out. Have a nice weekend. We'll be in touch back on Monday. See ya.